This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Fatal shooting. RCMP shoot and kill a woman in Eastern Passage after responding to an assault call.
Alehouse trial. The former bouncer accused of causing a patron's death testifies in his own defense.
And digital dugout. Blue Jays fans in Halifax cheer on the team by leaving a message of support ahead of Game 3.
A chance for showers overnight and again throughout the day on Thursday as northerly winds increase. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. We begin with details on a fatal police shooting in Eastern Passage. A woman died after she was shot by an RCMP officer outside a home in the community on Tuesday.
The province's Serious Incident Response Team is investigating the incident. The CBC's Preston Mulligan has the latest.
Well, just before 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, RCMP were called to this trailer park off Caldwell Road in Eastern Passage, and they were responding to a complaint of a physical assault at a residence on Cedar Lane, just behind me here. Now, over the course of that police response, an RCMP officer shot and wounded a woman. Now, that's all the information the RCMP released about the matter. Today, though, the Serious Incident Response Team released more details. They said that the woman who was shot died from her injuries. They also said that when RCMP arrived just before 2 o'clock yesterday, the woman was holding a knife. And they said the woman did not comply with the RCMP's demand that she drop it. So they tased her. But that didn't stop her. And she continued to advance toward police with the knife. So an RCMP officer fired a shot at her, and she was pronounced deceased soon after. Today it's very quiet here in this trailer park. I spoke to one woman who lives nearby, and she told me that it's not uncommon for police to sometimes visit this trailer park, but it's her observation that whenever they do enter, she lived here for 8 years, whenever they do enter the trailer park, they tend to have their emergency lights and sirens turned off. That was not the case yesterday. She said she heard some yelling a block or two away from her home, and then finally a single gunshot.
Sometimes people have a reputation in a community for being problems, and I've never heard anything about any kind of, neighbor or issues down that way. So, one-off incidents, it happens sometimes and it sucks, but it seems like the response time was fairly quick. I've seen a lot of people undercover, regular police cars, the ambulances, the fire trucks. There was a lot of support, it seemed like, that came immediately, and they tried to block the scene off as quickly as they could to stop people from kind of being nosier than they should have been.
Now, the Serious Incident Response Team is responsible for investigating incidents like this one that involve police and that would be in the public's interest. The people at CERT told us that the RCMP called them yesterday and that the investigation continues today. Preston Mulligan, CBC News, Eastern Passage.
One person is dead after a fire at a remote cabin in Queens County. The fire happened on Monday at around 6:30 p.m. just outside the community of Kempt on Albany New Road. After the fire was put out, first responders found human remains inside. At this time, officials don't believe the fire was set intentionally. An investigation into the cause is ongoing.
The trial of a former Halifax area bouncer accused of manslaughter and criminal negligence causing death has wrapped up. The final witness was the bouncer himself, Alex Levy, who denies he kept a chokehold on Ryan Sawyer for far too long. Blair Rhodes reports.
Videos of that fateful confrontation early on Christmas Eve 2022 have been played over and over again in Alex Levy's trial. Today it was his turn to talk about what the videos show and what he remembers. He acknowledged that he had exchanged words with Ryan Sawyer and his twin brother as they lined up to get into the alehouse bar. Later that night, Levy led the team of bouncers who ejected the pair from the bar. In the videos, Levy can be seen scuffling with both brothers outside the front entrance. He ends up on the ground on his back with his arm arms around Sawyer. Levy says he had the man in a chokehold, but he only applied pressure for about 10 to 15 seconds, not the entire time they were grappling. While there were other bounces around them, Levy says none of them stepped in to take over, so he maintained his hold and didn't release Sawyer until police arrived on the scene. Levy testified that at the time he didn't see Sawyer waving his arm in the air in what could be taken as a gesture of surrender, but the former bouncer acknowledged the gesture could be clearly seen on the videos. Levy says in his 16-year career as a bouncer, he used the chokehold about 100 times and never had it end like this. He says usually the person goes unconscious and the confrontation stops. The lawyers will return to court next Monday to make final arguments. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Halifax.
Complaints about homeless shelters and supportive housing sites have been ramping up around Nova Scotia. A senior official with the province's homelessness division says issues around criminal activity and community safety are inevitable around shelters. But Jamie Smith says the province is working with municipal partners and nonprofits to keep those problems to a minimum.
Sometimes you do see circumstances arise where our partners are engaging with local police services, they're engaging with their local community, and they're ensuring that people have the right services and supports in place so that they can mitigate the challenges that they're experiencing. And I don't think that's very much unlike most other communities and some of the challenges that they might face.
A Justice Department investigation last year found drug trafficking at a supportive housing site in Halifax. Justice officials threatened to take the matter to the Nova Scotia Supreme Court, which would have had or could have led to the facility being closed. The Minister of Opportunities and Social Development says problems at the site have improved since the province switched service providers.
NDP leader Claudia Chender says the province needs to ensure students can access affordable housing or risk losing them. At a news conference Wednesday, Chender said Nova Scotia universities are losing their appeal because of the high cost of living.
Tens of thousands of students choose to study in Nova Scotia because we have some of the best universities in Canada. But if people can't afford to live here, they're going to go somewhere else. And, I've talked to students' unions in every corner of this province, from St. FX to Acadia to CBU to HRM, and they all say the same thing. According to StatsCan data, it's now as expensive to live in Nova Scotia as it is to live in Toronto. And if this government doesn't take action, these soaring prices are going to have a very high cost for our province.
On the same day Chender made the comments, the Association of Atlantic Universities released its preliminary enrollment statistics for 2025. Overall, Nova Scotia universities are seeing a 7% year-over-year drop in full-time student enrollment. But that drop is entirely accounted for by international students following Ottawa's cuts to international study permits last year.
The ban on open fires and restrictions on travel and activity in the woods are now lifted in Annapolis County. The Department of Natural Resources says with conditions improving, it is now safe to lift the bans. Annapolis County was the last county in the province under the restrictions. It's where the Long Lake wildfire broke out this summer, destroying 20 homes and forcing hundreds of evacuations. The fire was put under control in late September. Daily burn restrictions remain in place province-wide until the extended wildfire season ends on October 31st. The fine for violations is $25,000.
And with us now to talk weather, Ryan Snoddon.
Yes, and some showers around.
Yeah, that's right. Showers kicking around right now. The valley, much needed showers moving through the valley this evening, which is great. We'll see more widespread showers on tap for Thursday. Thanks so much, Tom and Amy. As we look at the map here, and you can see, certainly some areas with some showers out towards the Guysborough and Cape Breton region today. And yes, sailing out of New Brunswick and into the valley over the last couple of hours. The good news is showers more widespread on tap for Thursday, with temperatures ranging between about 10 to 14 degrees. Now, the best chance for showers are going to be here in the west, where temperatures are coolest under that cloud cover and shower activity. And you can see for Thursday, lots of green here over western areas of the province. Certainly the chance for some showers Cape Breton and eastern areas. But as I said, greatest risk in the west. And again, that much needed rainfall, unfortunately, tracking to our south. Friday, the big headline is going to be the wind. Pretty gusty on Friday, clearing into the weekend. We'll talk about it with your full weather forecast coming up in a few minutes.
You're going to want to stay tuned for that. Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, as flu season begins, a national advocacy group for seniors is speaking out about the differences in access to vaccines across the country. And they are giving provinces here on the East Coast high marks. Shayna Luck reports the group says where you live can greatly impact your ability to get a shot.
Debbie Lewis-Boyce takes care of herself. Now retired from a career in healthcare, she goes to the gym in Halifax regularly. And on this day, on her way home, she stopped in to get her annual flu and COVID vaccine.
I'm very much pro-preventive healthcare. I've seen the repercussions of people that haven't taken care of themselves. And if they don't take care of themselves, they can't take care of their families.
This is the start of Nova Scotia's annual flu and COVID vaccine campaign, a busy day of appointments for pharmacist Jamie Flynn.
They signed up this first day that the system went live, and so I've got people that are very interested in preventative health in now.
But not every province covers the same vaccines in the same way. Seniors advocate Laura Tamblin-Watts says Atlantic Canada has made strides in covering more vaccines for the older population. She says that's cheaper for the healthcare system long term.
And so for areas that are really under strain, putting adult vaccination to the fore is the cheapest and most effective thing you can do to relieve that strain.
CanAge, a seniors advocacy group, just released a report card on vaccines for people over 50. Provinces like PEI and Nova Scotia scored highest, but some western provinces and territories lost points for gaps in coverage for diseases like shingles and RSV. And Alberta and Quebec lost points for introducing a charge for COVID-19 vaccines this year.
The troubling divide is when we're seeing jurisdictions like Alberta take steps in the wrong direction.
Bill Van Gorder says he's seeing Atlantic seniors take advantage of free vaccines, and particularly shingles.
They're having to make decisions on what gets paid for and what doesn't, and many people had decided to not get their vaccines because they couldn't afford them.
And as the cost of living increases, Van Gorder says free vaccines will become more important to keep Canadian seniors and the healthcare system in better shape. Shayna Luck, CBC News, Halifax.
A maritime alliance of municipal electrical utilities is complete. The town of Lunenburg was the final one to join last week. The group aims to pool resources and to learn from one another about clean energy and new technology. Paul Knopper is Chief Administrative Officer for Lunenburg.
I like the unique challenge that we have within this, that we're a rare commodity nowadays, but I think that gives us an advantage that we can show that communities of our size still have the strength to manage an electrical utility and bring it to the forefront of the new technologies and making a smart grid and sustainable grid.
The alliance launched earlier this year. It includes local utilities from New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island and Berwick, Mahone Bay, Riverport, and the town of Antigonish here in Nova Scotia.
Halifax Regional Municipality has made some progress on installing electric vehicle chargers, but they are still behind schedule. As of late September, 29 chargers of varying speeds are operating across HRM, but in January 2024, the federal government announced 56 charging stations would be installed in Halifax by spring of that year. The municipality says they have faced several hurdles in getting the chargers up and running, including equipment delays and negotiations of easements. HRM now expects to have all 56 chargers installed and operational by March 2027. Well, Toronto Blue Jays fans in Halifax are cheering on the team in the American League Final.
And they're also trying to win tickets.
Coach, this is Andy Fillmore, the mayor of Halifax, and I've got to tell you, on behalf of everyone in Halifax, we are rooting for the Jays tonight in Game 3 and for the whole series.
That is Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore leaving a message of support for the team at the Rogers Dial the Dugout pop-out in downtown today.
Now, the pop-up event gives fans an opportunity to cheer on the Jays by leaving a message on the dugout phone. That message will then be sent to Blue Jays manager John Schneider.
Not only that, fans will then be entered to win a trip for two to the next Blue Jays home game at Rogers Centre, including airfare and accommodations.
The Jays take on the Seattle Mariners tonight in Game 3 of the American League Final. And check this out, the Blue Jays are getting support from the sky.
Yesterday, pilot Dimitri Neonakis mapped out a route to draw the iconic Blue Jays logo over Nova Scotia. In total, the flight path took 2 hours and 2 minutes, and the total distance traveled was 570 kilometers.
The Halifax resident has drawn dozens of images in the sky over the years, sometimes using it as an opportunity to show support for his community.
Not sure if I see any rain out there yet, but it's coming. Ryan's up next with a full weather forecast. See you in a few.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, your weather forecast now, and showers on the way for some of us already seeing the showers.
Yes, very welcome indeed. And the timing works out pretty well, too.
Yeah, clearing a little bit as we move into the weekend, which is good. I think Sunday's going to be our day. We'll talk all about that with your 7-day. First and foremost, as we often do at this time of year, getting to visit lots of schools virtually and in person, a couple of virtual visits off the top of the year here. Last week in Cape Breton, this week in Lance. And
big crowd on hand.
Absolutely. Over 40 grade 5 students from Maple Ridge Elementary, and a big thank you to the grade 5s there. This was a great group of kids. They listened so well.
There.
Yeah, and definitely had a lot of great questions at the end. So thanks to the grade 5s at Maple Ridge Elementary in Lance. Now, as we look at the weather webcam for this evening, and you can see a few drops on the webcam at beautiful Halls Harbor here.
Nice to see, isn't it?
It really, really is. The showers, again, not a whole lot on the go, but enough to at least wet the ground, which is good. And you can see temperatures out there right now anywhere from 11 at Westport and Greenwood and into the Halls Harbor area around 12. And we're at 15 at Shelburne and Western Head and Halifax. Those are some of our warmer spots. Current winds. Note the wind in through the Yarmouth and Digby County area. That's going to be the strongest wind overnight tonight, and it will be the strongest wind even as we move into tomorrow as well. We've got this front coming through, this trough of low pressure. That's what's bringing the showers, and then we've got this system that's off to the south, and that's going to help to throw some additional moisture up into the mix here as we move into Thursday. And we'll be watching, again, the greatest chances are going to be for the west, but we'll all see at least the chance for some showers. But fall is really making a push across North America right now. As we look at this map, you're going to see how far south those temperatures are being pushed. At Toronto at 14, Chicago at 15, Minneapolis just at 11, even down towards Salt Lake City. So yeah, that summer warmth hanging on across the U.S. South, but Canada feeling very October-ish, just 0 right now in Iqaluit. Now, as we look at the temperature map for tonight, we're talking about overnight lows in the 7 to 10 range. Those northerly winds sustain near 20 and through Yarmouth and Digby with some gusts, perhaps 30 to 40 along parts of the coast. A lighter wind the further to the east you go, and it is a bit of an easterly flow, light but easterly flow for Cape Breton. So those showers will linger in the mix overnight tonight for the west. Isolated risk in the east, and for Thursday, this is going to be the story again. Scattered showers in the west, isolated showers in the east. Cape Breton is going to run the risk of seeing some showers, despite this model not really showing much. We can see there are those isolated showers developing for the mainland into the afternoon for the east and back into the west. This is where we'll have our best chance of picking up maybe 5 to 10 millimeters at the most, but we'll take whatever Mother Nature will throw our way at this point. Those steadier rains further to the south, and unfortunately not tapping into those this time around. So in Cape Breton tomorrow, expect a cloudy day, a couple of isolated showers on the go. The winds are going to be from the east to northeast, 12 to 14 kilometers per hour. 14 is 12 to 14 degrees rather. 14 degrees is about as warm as it'll get across the mainland for tomorrow, east and into central areas. 12 to 14 will be our range. Those northerly winds 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, and back into the west, we're talking about temperatures here, 10 to 13 with winds from the north to northeast. Now, let's have a look at Friday, and we will see some breaks of sun on Friday. The best chance for showers they're going to be light showers or drizzle in through the east and northeast, and that's this low spinning away, and then we've got this northerly flow which is going to be in place. Now, Friday, as I said earlier, it's going to be kind of a breezy, gusty day where we'll see sustained winds near 20, gusting 30, 40, even some 50 kilometer per hour gusts. Not out of the question for the Tri-County area. There goes that low spinning away on Saturday, and so a better chance and a better opportunity for at least some sun breaks on Saturday, though still the chance for some drizzle in the northeast of the province. Sunday's going to be the pick of the weekend. Clouds could still be a bit stubborn on Sunday, but I do think temperatures will be a bit warmer with a little more sun in the mix. And then another good chance for showers Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Tom and Amy, so some good news there.
It is,
good
for sure.
Good news indeed. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
After serving the Blackville community in New Brunswick for 150 years, an historic church traveled south of the border in 2001.
Now the church in Oklahoma City is getting another life. Have a look.
I'm in the Old Trinity Church, which is located in the Paseo Arts District in Oklahoma City. It started out in New Brunswick, Canada, was built in 1842. Later on, it was deconsecrated and moved to a restoration place in Halifax, brought it here to Oklahoma City via truck. They transported it here. I think it took 2 or 3 semi-trailers, and they brought it here in 2001 and put it back together on this parcel of land that had never had anything on it before. It obviously holds a lot of historic significance. To be honest, I didn't even know all of the history about it before I met with the previous owners. But I knew immediately that it was a very, very special place. I mean, it's beautiful. It's also very small. It feels very intimate. Really, on its own, it's only about 1,100 square feet. So there's nothing like it in order to compare it to with any houses or any other commercial properties around here. It's so unique. It's always great to have, just to have a story behind a property, the story that is tied to it, and then how do you continue telling that story going forward?
We're very committed to being in this area, and this just seemed like the neatest opportunity. I think the history of the building, obviously it was a church in its first life, but when it came to Oklahoma, it began its life here as an art studio. There's a big trend here, as maybe where you are, for people to convert neat structures to Airbnbs. And we just really didn't want to see that happen to it. We really did feel like we would be good custodians for it. Just the environment that you're in to create is so important. Just to sit in a boring room, it's kind of hard to be creative, but the light here is so glorious. There's a serenity here. Mm-hmm. So it's just being in the space is very conducive to creativity. It feels like a responsibility, and one that I think we're the right people for it, honestly.
To assume that responsibility and to carry it through. And even after us, it will continue to have some legacy to it.
Coming up, looking for lithium. As Nova Scotia sets its sights on more resource development, some are cautious about moving too fast.
Welcome back. Exploration for critical minerals in Nova Scotia is up almost 70% in the last year alone.
And as the province aims to make resource development more efficient, some urge caution in the new rush to mine more. Canada has what the world wants: critical minerals, valuable resources.
The natural resource potential that we have in this province, and it is very, very significant.
And now in Nova Scotia, some say the faster we get at it, the better.
When can you start drilling? I said, how does next week sound to you?
Drill, baby, drill.
With sour trade relations south of the border, some see it as our drill, baby, drill moment, much to the chagrin of others.
It's heavy-handed.
And in a rare move, the Nova Scotia government has already forced mineral exploration on one owner's land.
I would be one of those people that would stand up and say, you know, over my dead body.
Just how far is this province prepared to push things?
Oh, about 30 years now.
You've been coming here for 30 years.
Yes.
To the untrained eye, this is just a rock wall.
It's that white streak coming diagonally down.
But John Whiteman knows there's lithium in there. He staked his claim amid the telltale rocks of Brazil Lake, Nova Scotia, decades ago.
Just over 10 million tons of lithium ore, or pegmatite.
But since then, he says it's been a hard slog developing a mine here. Now, in his mid-80s, this veteran prospector says the province's recent pledge to expedite resource development will attract more investors, promising them faster returns.
People that are initially interested in investing in the future of an operation are not going to get tired and walk away.
It's time that we realize on those opportunities so quickly.
The Houston government is definitely pushing the envelope. When another prospector wanted to drill for lithium nearby, the government invoked rarely used legislation to force the landowner to comply after years of failed negotiations between them and the prospector.
We can't expect Nova Scotia to prosper when we ban industry after industry after industry.
It's all part of a wider and sudden policy shift by the government to extract more Nova Scotia resources to make the province more self-reliant. The government also lifted long-time bans on uranium exploration and mining, removed a moratorium on fracking for natural gas, all of it signaling to the world the province is now open for business. There's urgency in the air.
It was a welcome breath of fresh air.
How far do you think the Premier or the province will push things?
That's unknown at the time.
What might lie ahead is what makes people like David Solos nervous. He's an 8th-generation landowner in the lithium-rich Brazil Lake area.
They have that authority. If they took this place, I'd be heartbroken. I would be one of those people that would stand up and say, you know, over my dead body kind of thing. That will happen across the province. There'll be pushback for sure.
The push is on because the International Energy Agency says by 2040, the world will need 40 times more lithium, which explains the lithium rush in this province. In 2022 alone, mineral claims tripled to 27,000. Half of those are prospectors looking for lithium.
$100,000 a year jobs.
But in the rush to mine more of the province's resources, Indigenous people in Nova Scotia warn they have not been consulted.
We have serious concerns about how provincial decisions are being made without advance notice to and transparent conversations with the Mi'kmaq. Too often, we are informed only after decisions are made.
The government promises to consult with the Mi'kmaq and with nervous private landowners.
We would encourage the conversations to take place, but at the end of the day, the private landowner does have the rights of their private land.
And for those worried about Nova Scotia becoming a pincushion for prospectors, John Whiteman offers some perspective.
Quarrying projects, similar type operations, are less than 0.5% of the land area of Nova Scotia. This is a very small thing. There's more malls that take up more space than all the mining projects.
As for forcing property owners to allow exploration, John Whiteman's project doesn't require that. But he says experience has taught him sometimes the government has to be forceful.
I don't want to trample on anybody's rights, But if we have a chance to make a mine that will employ, we'll say 200 people, then if somebody just wants to say, oh, I'm going to stick them, I'm not going to allow them to go on there and do that. What is the best use for society?
If you discovered lithium right here, I'd say you're going to take my blueberries. I don't think so.
Like any commodity, one of the biggest factors in launching a mine is world price. In the case of lithium, after a spike a few years ago, prices have dropped, adding another headwind to Nova Scotia's hopes to quickly mine more of it.
Coming up, the days-old ceasefire is under new pressure as Israel calls on Hamas to return the remains of all hostages still in Gaza.
And automaker Stellantis pulls a major investment from Canada, switching production of a new line of Jeeps from Ontario to the U.S. Welcome back. Militants in Gaza handed over 2 more bodies of Israeli hostages late Wednesday night, and Hamas says it's now fulfilled its commitment to the first stage of the peace deal.
It says it doesn't have access to any more bodies because they're buried under the rubble in Gaza. As Briar Stewart reports, that could mean trouble for the deal that stopped the fighting.
Hamas has returned 2 more bodies to Israel, but the militant group says it will not be able to retrieve any more deceased hostages at this point without the help of expertise and heavy equipment. Obviously, a large portion of Gaza has been reduced to rubble. Now, there has been rising tension over the past couple of days around the exchange of remains. Yesterday, Israel received 4 bodies, but after forensic identification tests, it said that only 3 of them belonged to hostages. Now, under this deal, for every 1 deceased hostage who was returned to Israel, Israel is supposed to return the bodies of 15 Palestinians. Gaza health officials say that it has received 90 bodies so far and that doctors are working there to try to identify them. But obviously there are capacity issues in Gaza. And what officials say is that if they aren't able to identify the bodies, then they will take photos and post them and hopefully have family members identify them that way. A freelance videographer working for CBC News has spoken to a few Gazans who said that their loved ones were last seen and heard from on October 7th, 2023. And over the past 2 years, they've been wondering whether or not they were killed that day or they ended up in Israeli detention. There continues to be questions around the amount of aid going into Gaza as part of the deal. 16 aid trucks were supposed to enter every day, but Israel said that it was going to curtail aid over the delay in the exchange of bodies. And tomorrow, the Rafah crossing, which is between Egypt and Gaza, is supposed to reopen, but Israel has said it will only open for the transit of people, and this is mainly patients who have been severely injured and require medical treatment abroad. The ceasefire is holding, but it is precarious. Today, the Israeli military said it fired on Gazans who were approaching troop positions and had crossed the yellow ceasefire line. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A Scottish jury has convicted a man for killing his Canadian girlfriend in February 2024 in Scotland's remote Shetland Islands. 41-year-old Aaron Pearson was found guilty of assault and murder in the death of 24-year-old Claire Levesque from Alberta. The CBC's Karen Pauls has more, but first a warning. This story contains details of intimate partner violence and may be distressing to some.
Today, we were able to get justice for Claire.
Hope Ingram traveled to this Edinburgh court from Canada to support her uncle, Claire Levesque's father. They were cousins, but she considered her a sister.
She was so light. She was so bubbly. She wanted to explore the world, and that is why she traveled out here to Scotland.
In 2023, Levesque followed her boyfriend, Aaron Pearson, from Edmonton to his mother's home in the remote Scottish Shetland Islands. Locals saw Pearson driving his Porsche around, but many didn't realize he had a girlfriend with him.
Claire had, as far as I understand it, no money. She had no driver's licence. She had no access to a car of her own. And she was living in a very, very rural and remote place.
Levesque recorded conversations in which Pearson said she deserved the beatings he gave her.
And that message stated to Pearson that one day he would kill her. And in February of 2024, that's exactly what happened.
Court heard an excerpt of an emergency call made from the house that day.
Hi, my name is Aaron Pearson. I just killed my girlfriend in a hot tub in the garage.
What's your girlfriend's name?
Claire Levesque.
Pearson's mother told police he was behaving like a zombie. He'd stabbed himself, consumed brake fluid, and drove his Porsche into the sea. In court, Pearson said Levesque stabbed herself, and he couldn't remember what happened next. The jury and the judge didn't buy it.
This malicious, vindictive, and wholly fabricated account suggests certainly to me that you have sought to continue to humiliate your victim after her death.
That angers this family friend who's been following the case from Winnipeg.
Aaron had many charges brought against him in the province of Alberta, including domestic violence charges. He never had convictions, but victims have come forward speaking about the level of violence that they survived.
Hope Ingram says she needs to move on, but hopes her cousin will be remembered by her life and not her gruesome death.
My goal in life to try and remember Claire is just to be as kind, as open.
Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Automaker Stellantis is moving part of its Canadian production to the United States. The decision was announced as part of a multi-billion-dollar investment to expand production south of the border. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the move is a direct consequence of U.S. tariffs. Nisha Patel has more reaction and what it means for workers.
Stellantis won't build its Jeep Compass SUV at this assembly plant in Brampton, Ontario. Instead, the company is moving production across the border to Illinois.
There's been a lot of uncertainty and anxiety from our members.
The plant was scheduled to reopen this year, but Stellantis paused retooling in February after U.S. President Donald Trump slapped a 25% tariff on foreign-made autos. With the plant's future now up in the air, more than 3,000 jobs are at risk.
We're not taking this sitting down. We're not just going to sit here and say that's okay, because it's not okay.
It comes as Stellantis plans to spend $13 billion over the next 4 years to boost its American auto production by 50%, creating more than 5,000 jobs in the U.S.
We share with President Trump his goal to have, again, manufacturing system in automotive very strong in U.S.
This is the consequence of these Trump tariffs, this attack on the Canadian economy. And it's not just the Stellantis employees. There's going to be many associated auto parts jobs that are affected by this.
Ontario's auto sector has struggled since the trade war began. Earlier this year, GM cut 750 jobs in Oshawa as it boosted manufacturing at one of its plants in Indiana.
It doesn't stop at auto. They will keep coming until they have weakened us as a nation and as an economy. And that is something we can't stand for.
In a statement to CBC News, Stellantis insists it is investing in Canada by adding a third shift to its plant in Windsor, Ontario. Stellantis says it does have plans for this Brampton plant and says it will share them after it meets with the federal government. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Brampton, Ontario.
Voters in Newfoundland and Labrador have signaled they are ready for political change. The Progressive Conservatives won last night's provincial election. The party will form a majority government, bringing an end to the Liberals' decade in power.
Pollsters and pundits were saying it was going to be another Liberal majority. But we knew, all of us, we knew, and our PC team knew that the game was not over.
That's Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Designate Tony Wakeham on stage for his victory speech to a chorus of cheers from supporters. He led the Progressive Conservatives to victory in last night's election, winning 21 out of the 40 seats in the province.
Some mail started moving across the country this week after Canada Post workers moved from a nationwide strike to a rotating job action. But the partial return to work came too late for many regions where elections are coming up and where important voting materials were stuck in limbo. As the CBC's Marina von Stackelberg reports, that's prompting calls for change.
Canada Post was supposed to mail all these registration cards. But with municipal elections across Quebec just weeks away, officials like those in the town of Chelsea scrambled to get the information out in other ways.
We decided to deliver the card by a courier. The courier will ensure that everyone will receive a card and we will have a proof of that.
The strike was so disruptive, the City of Montreal is now calling for all election materials to be deemed essential mail, so voter information and mail-in ballots aren't held hostage in any future Canada Post strikes.
The city of Gatineau paid a bailiff to deliver its registration cards. So instead of serving legal notices, they served election information. In most parts of Canada, you can just register to vote on election day. Not in Quebec. Here, voters have to make sure they are correctly on the list this week to make sure they can cast their ballot next month.
We're really focused on getting all the polling places organized now.
People across Yukon also go to the polls in November. So the territory has a contingency plan. Mail-in ballots have been delivered with a patchwork of services by road and air. Elections Yukon also loosened the rules for in-person voting. People can now show up at any polling station in their electoral district.
We have kind of a philosophy and approach here that everything is figure-outable. And obviously we want to make sure that we keep the integrity, the access, the services to the electors.
Alberta's municipal elections are next week. Like many other jurisdictions across Canada, that province has made voter information accessible online. So while voter registration cards aren't essential to cast a ballot, they do play a vital role.
The best way after personal contact to get somebody to be mobilized to go to the polls is through this sort of direct mailing information.
Those cards are particularly important in provincial, territorial, and municipal elections, where the rules can all be different and voter turnout already tends to be low. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Gatineau, Quebec.
Well, as we mentioned, baseball fans across the country will be on the edge of their seats as the Toronto Blue Jays take on the Seattle Mariners in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series.
And it sure seems like the Jays are in trouble after losing the first 2 games at home. Don't worry, the hometown crowd has their backs, even in enemy territory. Jamie Strachan reports from Seattle.
The famous fish toss. At Seattle's Pike Place Market, it's a popular spot.
If you don't like fish, we sell t-shirts.
But it's not the usual crowd. On this day, it's full of Canadians who've crossed the border in droves for Game 3.
We're huge Blue Jays fans. There's a 14-hour road trip. We're like, yeah, we got to go make it happen, and we're so excited.
For many, a chance they couldn't miss. Was it a hard ticket?
Hard, no. Searching, yes. Paying, yeah. But worth it.
Nothing says Seattle more than a trip to the Pike Place Market. But today, Blue Jay fans from across Canada doing their best to paint the market blue.
On Friday night, we saw that the Mariners won, and we thought, when's the next time they're going to be in this situation? So we bought tickets and told our husbands the next day.
You leave them at home?
We left them at home.
As soon as the Mariners won Game 5 against the Tigers, we bought tickets right away. And yeah, I'm excited. Politics aside, yeah, no, just here to support Canada, and doesn't matter what's going on.
The Blue Jays are coming back to win the series, right? No! Seattle is typically one of the loudest stadiums, their fan base equally passionate. When the Jays make their annual trip to Seattle, usually at least half of T-Mobile Park is packed with Blue Jay fans.
I attended the 3-game series in Seattle in July 2024.
With cross-border traffic down because of the political climate, not everyone wanted to travel.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, it's a personal choice.
But many have made the trip, ensuring that in a must-win game, Blue Jay fans will be well represented. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Seattle.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, we have to wrap things up now, but before we do, a quick look at the weather forecast. Showers in that forecast, and no one's complaining.
No one is at all.
Yeah.
Maybe that they're not getting enough rain. But
yeah, that's true. That's true
good.
too, for sure. And I know folks perhaps tuning in at this time, as many say they do, for the viewer pick. Mistake by me, not loading up here for some reason. So I'm going to leave you waiting. Tomorrow it looks great. It's a great picture with some fall leaves. So
Technical problems.
Sorry about that. Have a look at our outlook here. So this is through the Wednesday evening time frame, and you can see through the overnight into Thursday, we are looking at those shower chances primarily in through the eastern parts, or the western parts rather, of the province. That's where we'll run the greatest risk. Certainly some isolated shower chances possible further to the east, including the eastern parts of the mainland and in through Cape Breton. And as we walk you through into the Friday time period, as that low pulls away, the wind is really going to be increasing from the north to northeast. Looks like on Friday we could see some gusts in the 40, 50 kilometer per hour range, maybe even some stronger coastal gusts down towards the Tri-County area as that low does slowly but surely pull away. And there it is off to the south. High pressure will kind of barge its way in through the door and into the region through the day on Saturday, bringing us at least a little taste of some sunshine. Temperatures on Thursday ranging between 10 and 14. And again, those northerly winds in the mix tomorrow as well. But Friday, they will be a bit stronger. I do think there's the potential to see a little bit of sunshine in the mix for Friday, but a greater chance for Saturday and even a greater chance for Sunday with temperatures into the mid-teens.
Okay.
Tom and Amy.
And that viewer pick tomorrow night. Already
Yes.
looking forward to tomorrow night's show. All right, New York's Grand Central Station is now a gigantic art installation that pays homage to the city and its people. The 150 existing digital screens in the terminal now show portraits and stories of everyday New Yorkers.
The exhibit invites commuters to pause amid the rush to reflect on the shared humanity of city life. It was created by a photographer based on his book, Dear New York.
He says all kinds of people are packed together in the city and the terminal, and he feels there's something spiritual about that. The exhibition runs until the end of the week.
Looks great, don't you think?
It sure does.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.